In this video, I'm going to be talking about anger, rage, and verbal abuse. I wrote this post back in October, and at that time, I think I was probably still a little bit angry about what happened the year before, and also very upset about the way I had been treated by my ex-partner. So this is a culmination of a lot of different feelings and how I've wrote this post. So I started off with the definition of what verbal abuse is. It's a type of psychological mental abuse that involves the use of oral language, gestured language and written language that is directed to a victim. Verbal abuse can include the act of harassing, labelling, insulting, scolding, rebuking, excessive yelling towards an individual. And that was from Wikipedia. So what is hidden abuse in a relationship? Here are 3 audio clips taken from a call that I made in April of 2018 when my then partner gets angry with me because I have called him on the telephone. I had tried to have a conversation with him while I was driving, but he had refused to talk to me. I tried again when I got back home, and the response from him was not good. I turned on the record on my iPad when he started to raise his voice because another person was trying to call him while I was on the phone with him. I rediscovered the recording after September 2020 when he finally ended our relationship. It ended very abruptly and I was in total shock. Here is the first clip.
It wasn't my fault.
No, it wasn't your fault. This is nonsense.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. I mean...
Yes, you bloody well did.
No, I didn't.
What was it all designed to do? It wasn't designed to bloody upset me.
It wasn't designed to upset you. Just think of my position, what I've got here, and then...
I think about your fucking position all the time, Loren.
Yes. I know, and you send in mixed messages because that's why I'm confused. Because at some point then you say, I can stay here, you're sending this money, I've got all this lovely place and I should be grateful and everything, right? But then I get other mixed messages, like when you were on the phone and you said something like, I'm throwing nearly £700 a month at you, and I'm like, oh, okay, sorry.
Well, that's more money than you're getting from anywhere else. Your lovely businesses that you've been developing, what are they producing?
Well, I haven't produced anything, that's why I said that we're going to...
Don't fucking knock the money that you get. Don't fucking bite the hand that's fucking feeding you.
I'm sorry. I'm not biting the hand.
Sorry. You're upset.
No, I'm not.
Upset because you made some bad decisions.
Yes.
What you're doing is you're now trying to make me feel emotionally responsible for your bad decisions. It's my fault that I made you dependent on me. It's my fault. You were a strong, powerful, independent woman, so I came along.
So that was the first part of the reaction. And obviously what wasn't explained was the reason why he was sending the money, because he was having an affair. He told me he was having an affair in the December of 2017 and he was leaving to go back to the UK in the January, and before he left he sat me down and said, this is what's going to happen, And that's when he explained what he was going to do. I was going to put £666 into my business account, and that's what he did. Don't ask me what it was for, because he said it was supposedly to help with the bills, but all of the bills were being paid from his own bank account, and I didn't have access to pay the bills anywhere. So that was one little part of an outburst. And then this.
It's you now trying to make me feel emotionally responsible for your bad decisions. It's my fault that I made you dependent on me. It's my fault. You were a strong, powerful, independent woman. So I came along and made you into what you are now.
No,
I made you dependent on me. It's my fault that I made you dependent on me. Paul's an evil bastard.
I haven't said that.
No, I can hear it in your fucking voice.
No, I haven't said that. When have I said that? I haven't said anything
No,
about
this
that.
is exactly why we shouldn't be having conversations like this either and on the phone and be on the way to the fucking airport on the way home. You've had plenty of time to have conversations, and then you choose not to.
Yeah, I've plenty of time to have conversations, and I choose not to. Mainly because I knew that this would be the reaction that I would get, because after he told me about the affair and I was left here in January of 2018, I started having panic attacks, and basically I booked a flight to return back to the UK to be with him, to see what we could do to sort out the relationship. He was telling me to accept the situation, that he was entitled basically to have another woman while he was in the UK, while I had to stay here to look after the house, to look after the property in Spain, and to still be here, clean the house, make sure everything was good, that there were food and everything for him to eat, and look after his needs when he returned. And that's what I was doing. But I was having these panic attacks, and I did return to the UK. And I remember trying to have conversations with him, but he wasn't a man that you could have conversations with. And I do remember trying to explain the situation, that it would have been easier for him if he could have rented his property in the UK and stopped doing the work that he hated, because he didn't like flying backwards and forwards, and he didn't like driving up and down the motorways. And I've got evidence of that, because he said lots of times that he didn't like driving up and down the motorways, but yet he didn't listen to anything that would have helped him to get out of his job quicker, to be able to retire a little bit earlier, to be able to live the life that he wanted to live, whereby, he could live in Spain and do things that he enjoyed and have some money coming in without having to do a lot of work. In fact, he could have still done some work, but he wouldn't listen to anything that I would have said that would have helped him. And the part where he's calling himself an evil bastard, well, obviously it wasn't in my mind, it was in his mind. And the only part that he got right was, I was a businesswoman when I met him, and I was a strong and independent businesswoman when I met him. And now I am in the process of trying to rebuild my life, because I gave up on that business when I moved to Spain, thinking that we would have this house together, that we would be secure together in Spain, in this property that he bought. I've since found out that obviously everything he said was just a lie.
talking to you.
Well, I'm very sorry
Go
that you're
nowhere.
angry with
It
us.
can't go anywhere. Because we're on the bloody phone. It can't go anywhere. This kind of conversation can't work on the fucking phone. Why don't you understand that?
Because
Why is it? Look, you've fucking upset me now. I'm going.
Bye.
See you later. I need to talk to Russ right now. I don't need to talk to you.
Paul.
Right? No,
Paul.
I'm going.
Goodbye.
So, that type of conversation can't work on the phone. I don't know what he meant by that. But I suspect that the real reason for his anger was because I was looking for answers about a relationship that he was carrying on a double life in the UK. He'd already confessed to seeing this woman in December 2017. And when he left me in Spain to return to the UK, sat me down and told me what he was going to do. And he was going to pay this money into my UK business account every month. And that he started to pay this money into my account, and I didn't even ask for that money. He just told me what he was going to do. So in the first recording of my call to him is nonsense, and I mentioned that I was confused because of a previous conversation that he told me that he was throwing the nearly £700 a month at me. Yet also he told me that I had a lovely place to live and that I should be grateful. He brings it up in fact that I was trying to earn my own income from starting an online business, and then he tries to tell me that I'm upset because I had made some bad decisions, when actually I was deeply hurt by his decision to confess his infidelity and tell me that he would be meeting another woman every time that he returned to the UK. In the second recording, he blames me for trying to make him feel emotionally responsible for my bad decisions, as if it is his fault that I am now dependent on him. The only bit that's correct is the bit where he says I was a strong and powerful independent woman running my own property management and student rentals business. He tells me I've had plenty of time to have a conversation and then I choose not to. Well, I think perhaps I was not able to have a face-to-face conversation, mostly because I feared outbursts like the one that I recorded. The third snippet from the same telephone conversation is him telling me that this type of conversation can't work on the phone. So here are some of the questions that I've researched from verbalabuse.com. When he seems irritated and angry with you several times a week or more, although you hadn't meant to upset him, you were surprised each time. He says he's not mad when you ask what he's mad about, or he tells you in some way that it's not your fault. And then when you feel hurt and try to discuss your upset feelings with him, you don't feel as if the issue's been fully resolved, so you don't feel happy and relieved, and nor do you have any feeling that you've kissed and made up. He says you're just trying to start an argument, or in some other way express his refusal to discuss the situation. You frequently feel perplexed and frustrated by his responses because you can't get him to understand your intentions, and you are upset not so much about the concrete issues, how much time to spend with each other, where to go on vacation, etc., as about the communication in the relationship that he thinks you said and what you heard him say. And this is exactly how I've come to terms with the situation that I found myself in. How in 2020, in September of 2020, he ended the relationship, not because of the person that he was then seeing in the UK in 2018, but because of a different person, a new person who he found throughout 2020 and started a relationship with while he was still in a relationship with me. So this is one of the reasons why I am writing my book, which is titled What Type of Man? Betrayal, Abandonment and Post-Separation Abuse. But mostly it's to highlight the hidden abuse that can go on in relationships and also to raise awareness of the situation between two countries, whereby one person is now in the UK and the other person is Spain. The legal conflict that can happen, and where there is no legal remedies, where one person has all of the power, money and control, and the other person is left with no money, has no power and has no legal remedies whatsoever, because they can't buy legal advice and they are basically stuck in a situation where they've tried to pay for mediation, to negotiate settlements, to write to their other person's solicitor to get some closure, and none of the mediation or negotiation has actually resulted in any resolution. And so I'm hoping to publish my first book in December and hope to get the draft completed and edited so I can actually publish this book in December. So this is my position at this point, and I'm not the only woman who will probably be in a similar situation. I do know of other women who have had similar experiences, and also that they get the same legal advice that I have had. We've compared notes, and the situation is very similar, where a solicitor will tell you one thing: you need to stay here, you need to do this, you need to do that, and it basically ends in conflict because there is no legal remedies in situations where couples have not been married, where couples have been living together in cohabiting relationships.